I don't want to accept this anymore, and this is what I do want to accept.
No boundaries. And I got sick.
Nope, thanks, that does not work for me. This is what works for me. This is where I'm at.
For me, energetic boundaries means just really putting myself in a place where I always feel like I'm empowered. Energetic boundaries just means really honoring where I'm at in that moment.
And I'll just be up here doing my thing, waiting for you to meet me where I'm at.
Just looking for that confidence. I felt like I had lost myself.
Having to like who you're looking at in the mirror.
Amazing.
We are live, baby girl. Okay, first of all, Liquid Death, thank you very much. Let's go. So good, so good. She's struggling over there. It's the nails. It's the nails.
Worth it every time, though.
Let's go. Let's hear it.
Oh, worth the wait.
Okay. She's in. She's ready.
Beautiful.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Business Savage podcast. Today I have another beautiful guest who I also have the privilege of calling one of my best friends on the show today, Jordan Perry. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks
Happy
for being
to be
here. Today's a special day for a couple of reasons. One, I have to mention that it's my birthday. Jay's like, what do you want to do on your birthday? I'm like, podcast. That's what I want to do. I want to have a juicy conversation, like the conversations we have every day, but I want to share them with the world. You're one of the most influential women in my life. Easy for me to say that, truthfully. And I think that you have such an ability to set beautiful, beautiful boundaries for yourself and the people in your life. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how you have done that for yourself, how you have inspired me to do it for myself, how you inspire men and women that you touch in all aspects of life to do it for themselves. And hopefully anyone who listens to the episode today, they will be inspired to set some boundaries in their lives.
I'm going to cry.
Right? I'm good at this.
Yeah.
I'm good at this. Jordan is a breathwork practitioner. She's a jack of all trades. She's a breathwork practitioner. That's how I met you. You are a social media strategist. You run a social media agency. You are the backbone of all of the social for somatic breathwork. You are a tarot card reader. You are spiritually gifted, I'm going to call it, and a bunch of other amazing, incredible things. So we're going to dive into all of it. I'll pull all of the juicy things out of you, and we'll see what comes to life.
I cannot wait.
Let's do it.
Yay.
Okay. I'm going to turn things over to you to start, allow you to introduce yourself a little bit more, where you're from, what brought you to Austin, and then we'll get into all the juicy stuff.
Beautiful. So I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I've only been in the Austin area for about 2 years now. And I had just felt like I needed to move. I was, like I said, born and raised, needed new energy. Initially thought Nashville, thought Oregon, and then I helped my partner move here. And I was like, wow, the energy in Austin, I couldn't explain it. It just feels so expansive, so spiritual, so open, so unique. So that is now where I reside. I, like you mentioned, breath worker, tarot reader, social media manager. I'm really excited that I have all these trades under my belt. I have had a past of just kind of like jumping around. Beauty school dropout. I was a housemaid.
I did not know that.
Beauty school dropout. Proudly. I mean, I got everything I needed to take care of myself. I couldn't give you a color, but I could maybe do your makeup a little bit.
Okay. So. Maybe we'll do that one day.
Was a makeup artist, was a house manager for a very wealthy company and family. So I've just really, kind of found myself, I'd say, in the last 3 years. And I've really settled in understanding that you can do multiple things. So now I'm really focused on breath work, tarot readings, and especially social media.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. So today's conversation, because when we first started talking about this, I was like, I want Jordan on the show. And there's so many things that we could talk about. And obviously, we try to keep these in and around an hour. I'm like, okay, what's a really good focus? And so just giving all of y'all that are listening to this some context, if I had to pick one, like the number one thing I think of with Jordan is she is the queen of being like, nope, thanks, that does not work for me. This is what works for me. This is where I'm at. And I'll just be up here doing my thing, waiting for you to meet me where I'm at. And you have inspired me in our friendship to bring out my stronger feminine power and the things that I believe in and stand firm in that and not have this wavering, shaking energy. And you have the ability to ask incredibly beautiful questions to everyone, your clients, myself. Sometimes I'm like, oh shit, she did just ask me that. Okay, all right, we're going there. So let's start off this conversation for people that are curious, because the topic of boundaries is a big, juicy one. A large portion of the audience that listens to this show are business owners. A lot of them are not. And so setting boundaries in our business, in our relationships, whether those be friendships, with family, in our romantic relationships, and setting boundaries for ourselves, right, and what that means. What does setting energetic boundaries mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it might look a little different in each area of my life, but for me, energetic boundaries means just really putting myself in a place where I always feel like I'm empowered, right? I always feel like I'm in a place where I'm responsible for my energy. I mean, because we always are, right? We're always in charge of our energy. I can say, oh, that person drained me. No, I put myself in a position and I allowed myself to get drained. So for me, energetic boundaries just means really honoring where I'm at in that moment and just staying strong on that. That can mean, like I said, so many different things. Maybe it's not being on your phone for the 2 weeks. I know you did that social media stint. Maybe it's spending the night alone. Maybe it's having tougher conversations and teaching people how to treat you. It can look so many different ways. Maybe it's cleansing yourself with smoke. Maybe it's taking a hot salt bath. It can look so many different ways. And I really want to draw home here that it's so different for everyone too. Like one of my biggest passions is helping people decide what that looks for them. Maybe it's a hot bath for me. Maybe it's a smoke cleanse for you. Maybe it's a run for you. Maybe it's sleep for me. It's always changing, and just always tuning in to the fact that it's changing, I think, has been such a superpower for me.
100%. Let's maybe, and you might need to close your eyes and think for a second, but like, let's go back to a time, because Jordan today, October 13th, 2023, sitting in front of me, you're like, I know what I want. I'm here to call that in, calling in high energy relationships, friendships, jobs, opportunities, everything. Again, something that you've taught me so well, but you weren't always like that. I'm assuming you didn't, I know you're a Scorpio and Scorpio energy, but you didn't just come out and you're like this boss queen. How did you learn that? Was there like a pivotal moment where you were just like, I don't want to accept this anymore, and this is what I do want to accept? What was that evolution like for you?
That's a great question. I would definitely say in the last probably 2-3 years, that's where my boundaries got really, really strong. I shared briefly, in my past that I was a house manager for a really wealthy family. Like I did everything for this family, no boundaries. You need me at 4 a.m., I was there. You need me to stay late, I was there. You needed me to put school on hold, I was there. No boundaries. And I got sick all the time. I probably had strep every 2 weeks, not 2 weeks, every 2 months. And strep, like you have to get a different strain every time. That just shows you how weak my immune system was on an energetic, physical, emotional, mental level. No boundaries. And I was just drained. I felt so lost. After that, COVID hit. And with COVID, a lot of introspection. I ended up quitting that job, getting into social media management. And just that was probably the start of my sovereignty. That, again, was 2020, about 2 years ago. And then from there, I just kind of having that space of no one telling me what to do. I became a business owner. I claimed that space on my own. And as business owners know, in the beginning of my journey, I was like, oh, I'll take whoever. Oh, you can only afford this much? That's fine. I'll do that. And I learned the hard way, like, oh, I've felt this before. I know what this means. I'm starting to get sick, or I'm starting to get drained. I just knew what not having boundaries felt like. And I just kept getting more sick and sick and sick of them. And then I was blessed to meet the man that I'm with today. And one of the most attractive aspects of him was his boundaries. He just was so clear on what he wanted, knew himself so well that he could easily communicate, and it just provided so much safety. So that really inspired me. I think I've taken it and ran with it. And now I would say probably have the stronger boundaries than probably anyone I know. And that just came from knowing what happens when I don't. And I've never regretted putting a boundary in place. And once you get to a place of such self-love and self-sovereignty, you can't lose anything. If you lose yourself, you lost yourself. If you lose anything that's outside of yourself, you've already lost yourself. So to stand in that power and to stand in that self and to have that love, the fear of setting boundaries goes away. That fear of confrontation goes away because you got you at the end of the day. And once I felt that love, I will never give it up.
I know the exact feeling that you're talking about, that moment where you decide to make a decision for yourself instead of for somebody else. I would love to call on, I want to say almost like all our female listeners with this one, because you and myself have been through a journey in our romantic lives that has required us to realize that, how do I want to put this? In order for us to call in what we wanted, A, we had to identify what is it that you want? Like, what are the qualities that you're looking for in your partner? And then B, become that, right? How am I supposed to ask for incredible communication from a partner if I'm not willing to communicate very well? How am I supposed to ask for how I want to be treated when they pick me up or all these types of things if I am not also willing to do those things back? And I think part of that came from spending time alone and really understanding ourselves. And where I'm headed with this is I think a lot of women have a very difficult time being alone. So they'll jump from partner to partner. They always have options. They don't want to spend a Friday night alone having a hot bath, pulling a card, and doing whatever makes their soul happy because they're not even really sure what it is if they don't have external validation or gratification or somebody else to fill the quiet void. What advice do you have to that woman who's like, I want to feel in my feminine power, but I can't, or I don't like being alone. I don't want to be with just myself. Like, where can they start? What are some practices or ways that they can start to learn to listen to themselves, listen to their intuition, and then start to accept what it is that they actually want and call that in?
Big question. So to answer the aspect of what would be a first step, for me, it really started with mirror work. I don't know if you've heard about mirror work.
I have, but let's explain it because I'm sure many haven't.
I mean, it can look a multiple different ways and a multitude of different ways. And how it looked for me was just, I remember I had this point where I did not have boundaries. I felt so lost in life. I'd had a couple things happen on a personal level that were just heart-shattering. And I remember being in a state of wondering, like, do I even want this experience anymore? Is life even, like, what's the point? I just was on my rock bottom. And I remember looking in the mirror, and I don't know what came over me, like, call it God, source, spirit, but there was maybe even just my soul, like my yearning for life just looked at me in the mirror, and I said, it was not like a get your shit together, but I don't even remember the exact words that came through, but it was more the energy that I felt, and it was just looking myself dead in the eyes and was like, you're fucking doing this. Like, we're going to get through this. Let's keep going. And having that transparency with myself, having that depth with myself just changed everything. So I think, there's this quote that I posted on social a while ago, and I'm trying to remember it and call it back to me. It's like, if you never sit alone, how do you know who you're sitting with? Something like that. And so when you're looking in the mirror, like, do you actually look at yourself? Because I really believe, you hear eyes are the window to the soul. Have you looked at yourself? Have you actually had a moment? We look at ourselves in the mirror all day, but do you actually intentionally look at yourself and tell yourself what you need to know?
I talk to myself every day.
I love that.
Every day.
You should, because that to me is so vulnerable, and I had resistance being vulnerable with myself. So how could I be vulnerable with other people? It kind of bleeds into the rest of their question. So I started with mirror affirmations. I was big on affirmations, just telling myself, I love you. We got this. You're a boss bitch. You can do this. And just having that 2 minutes maybe in the morning to myself to just actually look at myself. From there, I made the decision, and for the listeners, I know this will be up to you. Do I want to know why I have resistance to myself, or do I just kind of want to jump into it? Because I do notice, and it depends on where you're at in your healing journey. I've been in the healing journey where there's aspects where I'm constantly trying to figure out, like, well, why am I this way? Why am I this way? Why am I this way? And I just continue that cycle, keep reliving certain aspects of my life. And breath work, which I'm sure we might talk about later, really helped kind of move that energy through, which was a pivotal moment for me. But there's also the aspect of maybe we don't have to know the reason why. We just have to kind of sit with the emotions, let the emotions come through, and sit with that uncomfortability. You kind of touched on the point that a lot of people don't like to be alone because they're avoiding what's there in that space. So if you can get curious, and if you want to know what's on the other side, that was my biggest thing. It was like, okay, yeah, I'm curious why I felt this way, but do I want to live this life and leave this world being afraid of being alone? And if you're someone who doesn't want to be alone, that doesn't call to you, whatever, this is your life, But for me, I personally wanted that skill. I wanted that so bad. I saw people take trips by themselves. I saw, women living alone. And I was like, I don't think I could do that. I want to be able to, though. I really do. And so that yearning again started with the mirror work, and then maybe it was a walk by myself, and then maybe it was a weekend alone, or maybe it was driving in the car with no podcast, no music, no anything, no phone, and just sitting with myself and just kind of flirting with that uncomfortability, because it was really uncomfortable in the beginning. And now I'm like, if I would give anything to have a week by myself in the woods. I've been fantasizing about it all week of just space, but it means you're spending time with you.
Yeah.
So if you don't know yourself, that can be uncomfortable. If you're not willing to be vulnerable with yourself, that can be uncomfortable. And if there's things and emotions that you have to resolve or maybe think about and sit with, that can also be really uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think that's all really valuable advice. You give a lot of really tangible, good places for people to start. And something that I want to touch on is like having to like who you're looking at in the mirror, right? And it doesn't start that way. I remember when I first started this, and it's actually funny because I looked a couple days ago, a photo popped up of me from 2 years ago, and instantly, I mean, she was overweight. She had 10,000 pounds of makeup on. I had a drink in my hand. I had dollar bills hanging out of my bra. And I looked at this photo and I'm like, who is that woman? I am not that woman at all. And I remember that woman. I remember her being sad. I remember her being lonely. I remember her needing validation from everybody else in life. I remember people saying to me, like, you don't see how beautiful you are. And I didn't. And it took this huge journey of accepting who I was. And so I want to kind of transition this back to energy, because I think now, and something that I admire about you, I think you're one of the many things I admire about you. One of, if not the only other woman I truly, truly, truly know who loves her alone time as much as I do. It's like I would say no to tons of big, beautiful plans because I'm like, I just want to read a book by myself and in the rain, and I don't want anybody's energy around me. I don't want their good morning. I don't want their hug. I don't want anything. I just want to be with myself because I love being in my own energy. And I think that that's a really hard place to get to. But energetically, so where I'm going with this question is, it takes me being in a situation with people and something doesn't feel right. Like this is a good transition for you with breathwork, and you're so good at this. Because you ask me these questions all the time, and I started closing my eyes a lot because of you. Like, it's a thing that I've probably done in the last 6 months where I feel like I can't answer a question when I'm looking around at steam. I have to close my eyes and go inward, and I actually like connect with my body, and I'm like, what is my body telling me right now? How am I feeling right now? And it's that feeling that I'm like, I don't want to be here, or I don't like that person, or this doesn't feel right. And so I think my question is, how can other people, not just women, learn to have that practice? It's a practice of energetically tuning into their body to help them set boundaries, whatever that might look like for them. How do they know in a situation like when it's not right for them?
Right. So beautiful question and beautiful reflection. Thank you. I fully receive that. It's so cool to see your transition as well. But right now, the answer I want to have is a little different than maybe where I started. So I'll kind of share now, I have a lot of experience now with breathwork. I'm a certified practitioner. I work with the team. I've been in the breathwork space, somatic space for like 2 years. So I'm really in touch with my body. I haven't gone more than 7 weeks without an intense somatic breathwork session, which really gets you in that body. So I formed a relationship with my body. So that's a great place to start, is if your body is so smart, your body knows before the mind. And so if you can tap in, and maybe that is just closing your eyes, like you shared, just closing your eyes. And I noticed you put your hand on one on your heart and one on your belly, if that's where you as a listener feel that energy source from. do that. I've had moments when I just close my eyes for a second, but I typically just will feel it now. But I remember when I first started on this journey, is every morning I would just ask myself, how do you feel? Because I would find myself, especially when I was like nannying and a house manager, halfway through the day, I'm like, I'm so stressed. I feel kind of bitchy. I don't feel good. I don't want to be here. And I'm like, is this even mine? Is this even my energy? And so I was like, okay, if this is how I'm feeling and my emotions and my state is changing throughout the day, I need to develop a baseline. So that means every morning, and I started every morning just asking myself, where are we at? Because if I'm happy right now, and then in 3 or 4 hours, I'm not as happy, could be that something happened to me, or it could just be that I'm taking other shit on and making other people's issues my issues and literally owning that. And I don't want to own that. So if that was a huge, like a great beginner step, starting in the morning, feeling into your body, doing a light breath work is great just to move any energy through and just kind of get in the body. If a walk is all you can do, if going to the gym is all you can do, or even just closing your eyes for a second and asking yourself or looking in that mirror and saying, how do we feel right now? Where in our body do we feel? And then when you get a text, notice, like, let's say you get a text for an invite. This is something that taught me that I was really starting to tap into my body. Is I got a text from someone and I didn't even realize. And as I'm typing back, I realized my shoulders were up to my ears. And I was like, oh, that stiffened me up. That gave me a somatic reaction. And sometimes people will text me and I'm like, oh, like I melt. And I'm like, okay, that feels great. So it's just starting to tap into the body, like I said, breathwork's my best way to do that. Maybe it's dance for you and you just whatever it takes to get you in your body, and then just start listening to it. Just leave that space, even if you're just closing your eyes for a minute and just asking the body, prompting the body, do you have anything to tell me? Or just taking that pause of how do I feel? It's way more natural than we think. I think it really is just like a reconnecting back to the body. I think that connection is always there. There's just, we haven't maybe utilized that tool. But that's a great place that I would start, especially with energetic boundaries, is when you're around someone, how do you feel on a physical level? How do you sleep after? And I saw this TikTok. It was like, is it a couch run or a treadmill run? Can you run on the treadmill after you hang out with them? You have all this energy, you feel filled up? Or do you just want to lay on the couch and you just feel drained?
Yeah.
Pay attention. Maybe it's not beforehand and you don't know, and then after you start to take note, like, every time I say yes to do this thing with that person, it doesn't feel so good.
Yeah. I would love for you, because we could talk about this stuff all day and give so many different examples on it. So I feel like family boundaries. I've expressed a lot of different struggles to you with my family and things that I've been going through. And every time I go back to Canada, I'm living with my family, my parents, and they're triggers for me. And I've done all of this work, and then instantly I'll message you and I'll be like, girl, I'm right back in it. Like, I am triggered. I am sassy. I am not this like queen that I am calling in. And it takes me right back to who I used to be and all of these things. Also, certain relationships, like friendship-wise, that maybe used to be very important in your life, and a season has grown and you've grown away from that, but you feel like a guilt or a calling to still entertain them and still message them or still say hi and hang out with them, or they're around and they've asked to hang out and you say yes, even though you know that you don't feel good after. Where I'm going with this is it takes, and for me, it's taken courage. It first took being able to tap into my body. It then took awareness of, oh, okay, my body doesn't like this. My body is not feeling good in this energy. And then it took the courage of being able to have uncomfortable conversations. What is that process like for you? What advice do you have for someone who's maybe struggling setting a boundary in a relationship that like used to exist? Maybe it's family or a friendship they used to have, and now they're realizing, hey, I'm growing and evolving. I still love you, but like this is where I'm at now. Like what thoughts come up for you around that?
Yeah, I want to say, one, I loved that, like how you broke that down, because I would say, yes, it is like getting into the body, then it's the awareness, then it's the courage to speak up, but even beyond that, it's like the self-love to detach from the result. Like at the end of the day, I love so many people in my life, but I love myself more. And I've had my struggles with family. I feel really disconnected from my parents in times, and that ebbs and flows. But I just take away my energetic access. And if they ask about it, I'm okay sharing why that is. And I'm okay taking that space for me. And I know for some people that's like a non-negotiable. My family's got to be in my life, and I totally respect that. I'm really, really strong on boundaries. You quite literally could be my mom, and I will just take the space that I need to do some healing. And then when I am ready to communicate, I make sure and I try my best to communicate from a place that's grounded, neutral, or at least from the heart space. I'm not trying to say, you can't be in my life because A, B, and C. And I don't want to put, it's my own shit. It's my own thing. Like you're causing a reaction within my body and energetically that I can't, it doesn't feel good for me. So I'm going to own that completely, but I need the space to do that until I can find a way that feels good for me to show up for you. And for me, it feels best to like leave people feeling love and respect. And so, to answer your question as far as like friends, yeah, that's hard. I really have come to a point where I don't feel like I owe anyone anything. I owe myself everything. And again, that doesn't have to be harsh, but I mean, I even have friends recently that I used to be really close with, but I can just feel on an energetic level. Maybe there's not even a reason. There's some people that you might not even know why. You're like, there's just something about it. And you have to take a second and say, okay, is it out of jealousy? Is it out of a hidden desire? Is it why is it? But with this specific person that's in my life, I just feel like I believe in spirit guides or ancestors, and I just feel them being like, not this one. I can't, no one sees what I see, but I feel it. And it's such a knowing that this person, maybe it's karmic, who knows? But for me, it just is a no. It's a strong no. So I've just started creating space. There's no conversation that even needs to happen. It's just purely like, oh, that sounds lovely. Thank you for the invite. I'm not going to be able to make it. Or do I feel like I need to explain myself or put that in their space? You know, I'm just living my life over here. I don't need to put my process and make my process your process as well. And I mean, at the end of the day, if people have questions, I think it's fair to answer them if you want. That's, again, a boundary for you. If you don't want to have to explain yourself, that's where you're at. That's great. I'm at a place where I love communication. I love honest communication. I will always be honest. I pride myself in I don't lie. I really don't. I have nothing to lie about because I got me and I know where I'm coming from. So even with friends, just creating space, deleting people off Instagram if you want, and just loving yourself enough for the repercussion, loving yourself beyond the result of what might happen, and trusting if this person's not honoring your boundaries, what are you losing?
Yeah.
Okay, then they're probably not the friend for you. And I really believe we only have so much space in our life. Like maybe that person is a little further from you. Maybe they still have some access every once in a while, but now you have all this space that's a little closer to you to bring in those connections that do feel more aligned for you, that do honor your boundaries. You know, I recently told my friends here, I don't make plans more than 24 to 48 hours in advance. And I watched. Some people made fun of me. Some people laughed. Some people had a judgment. Some people were like, whatever. Okay. Like you were one of those friends that was like, okay, so what are you doing tomorrow? Like it was totally fine. Like it didn't even faze you.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, yes, this is a yes for me. But I've had some friends that are like, oh, because it's not within the 48. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just watching. I'm not even going to place too much of a judgment on that now, but then you're probably not my person. Like it has nothing to do with you. And I know that might come from a certain place of love from them, maybe not, but either way, it doesn't matter. I know that that's a rule that I have, and that has energetically saved me so much space. And now I don't have to bail last minute or explain myself on why I can't make an engagement because I told you where I'm at. And if you had expectations beyond that, I very clearly laid out my expectations, so that can be helpful too.
So helpful. You've dropped a lot of golden nuggets, a lot. And one of the things that you mentioned there that I think is so important to reiterate, because it's been such a powerful process for me, and you've really helped me through this, is feeling the need to explain. How many times have I been like, but should I say why? Or like, but what if they think this? And you're like, it doesn't matter what they think. Yeah. Right? And how they react, or if it triggers them, or if they don't understand, it's okay. Does it feel good for you? Does it feel aligned for you? Is it your truth? Is it what you want to do? Then that's all that needs to, and you're doing it respectfully and all those types of things. That's all that needs to matter. And you've really helped me with that, detaching from their perception of me in standing in that decision. And as I've evolved and the relationships have evolved, not in a right or a wrong way, just evolved in different directions, I felt this need of always explaining, well, but this is why I'm saying no, and I just really want you to understand, and da-da-da-da-da. And now I'm just like, nope. Nope, love you, but nope. Like this is where I'm at. So I think that's a really important thing to add on there, is that detachment from caring what everybody else thinks and just knowing that it's right for you.
Yeah.
That's all that needs to matter.
Yeah.
I've become such a private person in the last year. Like, my closest friends know what's going on in my life, and that's it, because the rest of it, it's like, it only needs to make sense to me. That's it. Or I used to be one of those people, I don't know if you ever went through a cycle of this, of, but what do you think? What do you think about this guy? What do you think about this opportunity? What do you think I should take that trip? What do you think? To everyone. I needed everybody else to tell me. And then I had 7,000 opinions, and I didn't even know what my opinion was or what I wanted out of it. So then I stopped. Got maybe one or two that I'm like, I could use your guidance on this one, or, but we always have the answers when we have the courage to quiet the noise and just actually tune in and listen to ourselves. I wish that everybody, if they took one thing from it, they had the courage to just sit in the silence and listen to themselves and the power of what their body will communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. And even on that point, this is a practice of learning to trust yourself. Certain people come into your life and you're either one of those people that trusts up front, and then you're like, oh, trust is broken, I'm going to step back. Or you're one of those that's like, I'm stepping back, and I'm going to gain trust. Whatever your dynamic is with trust, look at that within yourself. Do you trust yourself? Because I was the same. I'm like, does this outfit look good? What do you think about my hair? What about this? And now I'm to the point where, like, I might ask out of curiosity, but I've probably already had my answer. And maybe I just want a moment of validation, or I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious to see if you see something I don't. Never really about my looks, maybe in business or something, but I really have gotten to the point where I trust myself, and I'm trusting that I'm making the right decisions, which then in turn just makes your boundaries even stronger, because you know that you've made that decision and you're standing by that. There could be 10 people that say no, but you said yes, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
You're also one of my only friends, and I love this about you, that, like, and this is such a beautiful thing. Jordan will send me a picture and she'll be like, look how good I look. And I'm like, yeah, you do. I love it. Like, it's so, other than, most people would be totally other side of things, and you'll just be like, look how good I look. And I'm like, look how good I look.
It is. Yes,
it's beautiful.
Exactly.
It's beautiful. Last thing I would like to talk about with boundaries, and then let's transition to breath work, is, and your tarot card reading. I want to talk about that as well. When you first started with your agency, because you're running somatics, you're running a lot of other accounts, you're running your own account, you're running this agency, and you've already mentioned this a little bit. Clients overstepping boundaries in terms of having access to you in a way that they shouldn't have access to you, speaking to you in a way that they shouldn't be speaking to you. You're helping me with that right now. What guidance, advice do you have for a new business owner who is struggling right now setting boundaries with a client who is taking advantage, overstepping? With agency, we have a scope of work, and sometimes clients will like to push past that. What advice do you have for them around that?
Yeah, I remember I was in high school and I had this pertains to dating, but I'll bring it back to business. And one of my friends' moms asked us, I feel like you guys are just going for any kind of guy. What kind of boundaries do you have? And we were like, and she's like, I'm going to stop you right there. If you couldn't answer it, you don't have any.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh,
Ooh.
Obviously it stuck with me.
Yeah.
And so even with business, it's like, okay, yeah, I have boundaries. You're like, okay, do you know what those are? Like for me, you can't text me about business. I've told all my clients, no. I have Slack. I'm happy to answer you on Slack, but if you text me, I will literally responding on Slack. And I will reiterate over and over and over. Why are you on my personal phone? Why are you sending me DMs? You have a designated space to speak with me. I want to know what you have to say. But also, like for me, now I'm going to be disorganized. We have 3 different conversations on 3 different platforms. And now you're like, oh, remember when I sent you this? And I'm like, oh, where is that? That's my time now. So it's my time, my energy, and you're in my personal space. My texts are my personal space for me personally. So I have Slack. I do with some of the clients give them specific access, let's say like Monday through Saturday. Saturday mornings are open. Saturday nights I won't answer. I'm a late night owl, so it's okay if they message me late. If I'm on my computer, I'll get to it. If I'm not in the space to, I won't get to it, but I don't let things go beyond 24 to 48 hours. That's a boundary I have. Some people might be like within 12 hours, within 2 hours. But yeah, specifically as far as like conversation, I have a designated space for them to talk to me, and I will redirect them if needed. Oh, okay. Slack. Okay, catch you on Slack. Okay, don't call me just out of the blue to ask me a business question. You can ask me if I'm available on Slack. So I just won't answer. Like, you can call me and I'm just not going to answer because nothing's that important and my time's really important. And you teach people how to treat you. That's so important. And I have had moments where, clients have either spoken to me disrespectfully. I don't see how, social media is a big deal. It can build a business. It can really support a business. But in what world do we have to disrespect people to get that done? Under what circumstance? I don't know when you ever really have to disrespect people in your life. And that's just me. I'm really big on respect. And maybe you guys have, different boundaries on that. But I've had times when someone was disrespectful and I just sat there, no expression on my face, let them say what they had, sat in it, didn't respond. And then when I was ready, I responded. That's also a boundary. Just because you want a reaction, just because you want to have this conversation doesn't mean we're having it. And then after, I'm going to share with you, I always sit back and I say, where can I take accountability for this? How much responsibility can I take? Okay, now what do I want to talk to them about? I don't even need to know why you did it. I just need to let you know, do this again, and this will happen. If you speak to me like this, I can't work with you. Can you tell me what the issue was? And usually it's a personal thing. It's their own thing. They're really involved, and that's fine. But yeah, I would say when is it? It's never your problem, and you don't have to respond right away. So that's okay too. People, clients will sometimes get all frustrated, and they'll send you a message. You don't have to respond to that. You decide what you respond to, and you can say, "Hey, this was very heated. Why don't you go ahead and send me a different message, or that's just not okay." So I would just say, first, get clear on your boundaries. Take the space that you need. Like, if someone puts something in your space, maybe you need to go walk it off. Like, do you want to carry that? Do you want to react to that? Give them the power that they're now changing your character, maybe changing your state and changing how you want to show up. Like, call that power all the way back and dust that off, and then you can have a conversation.
I told you guys she was a boss babe. So good. Okay, let's transition and talk a little bit about breathwork, your journey with breathwork, finding breathwork, how you found the somatic family.
Yeah.
Do you have daily practices that you do with breathwork? Just, all of the juicy stuff.
Yeah, so I kind of shared COVID changed a lot of my life. I came from, I was living here. I went to France. France had one of the worst lockdowns during COVID. It was insane. I was in the south of France. I had to come back. The person I was with was someone I was dating at the time, turned really toxic, came back, lost myself. Like, I just felt so frazzled. I was so traumatized. It was a really dark moment in my life. And I had a friend that was like, you got to go to breath work. And I'm like, what is that? She's like, it's like a meditation. And let me preface this. Some breath work does feel like a meditation. This specifically did not feel like a meditation, but that is what she had communicated to me. And I'm referring to somatic breath work here. And Stephen Jaggers, who is the creator of somatic breathwork, this was his first, I believe it was his first cohort, meaning his first training. He was actually teaching people how to facilitate this type of breathwork. And on the last day, he opened the session up to the public, which he still does to this day. But this was his first one. So that was kind of serendipitous. And I had resistance. I was like, I don't want to go. She's like, just go. It's like $22. And I'm like, I just went to France. I sold everything thinking I was going to travel the world. COVID hit, world shut down. What are the odds? I had no money because I stopped being a house manager. Obviously, you can't be a nanny from France when they live in Arizona. And so I knew that I should, but I was just like, $22, can't do it. Then eventually I was like, okay, I'll go the day before. And she's like, they sold out. I'm like, see, it wasn't meant to be. I'm not going to do it. She ended up reaching out to a friend. Was like, if any ticket opens up, I just really feel like my friend needs to go, which shout out to Chelsea. Thank you for being such a loving friend and really giving me that push, because it definitely changed my life, and following your intuition on that one. But last minute, I think it was like 2 hours before the session, they're like, we have a free ticket. The girl can't make it. And she said, just to donate the ticket. If your friend wants it, it's yours. And I was like,
my
great.
whole body just got chills.
Yeah. And so I went. I love that I didn't have the expectation of what breathwork was, because I think it really helped me get into it. And, before you say an intention, you speak out an intention, mine was confidence. I just was looking for that confidence. I felt like I had lost myself. And there was one other person in the group that had said confidence. I'm going to sneak this in there.
Okay. I know where this is going.
Yeah. So I go into the session, and I remember telling my friends after getting back on American soil, don't want any men in my space. I don't trust men. I don't like men. I don't want them around me. I just want to be with my women, and I just want to be with myself. I was like listening to subliminals at night. I was doing meditations, everything I could, just to Like I wanted to reclaim myself so badly after what I had been through. And I was like, did not want men in. I had this beautiful healing experience where I kind of got to rewrite that story. I felt open and accepting, like this is something that happened to me. Not all men are bad. It was very healing for me. And afterward, the gentleman that had also said confidence came up to me, and we had both happened to say that same word. Turns out we're together now, like 2 years later. It's been a beautiful, like it was such a serendipitous moment. So that on top of everything, I'm like, I was supposed to be there that day. And that's how I got into breath work. From there, I've done breath work every 4 to 8 weeks for the last 2.5 years. Like I do not, it is my decompressor. It is my way to clarity. It is for me to get into my body. It is such a remembrance of who you are, who you came here to be. And once you're that vulnerable, let's again kind of bring it back to once you can be that vulnerable with yourself, there's so much freedom to be vulnerable with others. I'm going to my depths. Now I can go deep with you. But if I'm not going deep with myself, how am I supposed to go deep with you?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got into it, is I was just kind of pushed into it. And then I became their social media client. I was like, you got to take this to the world. It was through Steven's like personal account that he was promoting. And I'm like, let's make you a somatic account. Give me a space for the next training. I want to get certified and I'll put you on TikTok and Instagram. And we went viral while I was in that training. It was crazy, and our growth's been great since then. But breath work, yeah, it's beautiful for me. As far as daily practices, we have some on YouTube that I like to utilize. I know that Open App has some, Insight Timer has some, and breath work is beautiful because you can decide what you want. Do you want like kind of like an upper? Do you want to get that energy going? Do you need something just relaxing to have at night to set you to sleep? So I don't know that I have a personal one that I would put out, but I am planning on putting some on YouTube by the end of the year now that I am back in my own space.
There we go.
So once that happens, I'll send it to you and you can kind of get a feel for it.
Yeah, I would love to. I've never actually been through you facilitating a breathwork session.
Yeah.
Yet.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yet. I know.
We should
know.
do it.
You should.
Yeah, I would love that.
I feel like I've talked about this a little bit before, but I don't know if you know, my first ever breathwork session ever was with Jaggers. And so I used to be in Rob Dial's coaching program, and he had Jaggers come in on, it's actually how I fell in love with Austin. Rob had a seminar, whatever you want to call it. And I came down. I was part of his mastermind. It was in Austin the last day. Jaggers came in and did a breath work, and I did not know what it was. I still had my armor up, all these types of things. And I remember lying there being like, what is happening? Half the people in the room were having an exorcism, screaming, laughing. Someone said they were like levitating. I'm just like, what is happening? And then long story short, Jaggers pulled me aside at the end of it because he was right beside me in my ear trying to help me breathe and get into the pattern, and I just couldn't. And he pulled me aside and he goes, you didn't have an experience, did you? And I said, nope. Like, my masculine, and I had my arm. And he goes, when you decide to take that armor off, you will. And I remember it, like that has stuck with me. And then all of my transformational breathwork experiences have been with him and him guiding. The next one I did with him was like, just, I'm like, oh, that's what people were talking about.
Yeah.
When I decided to allow it to come in and allow my breath to clear and show me what I needed to release. It's a very, very, very powerful practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That.
I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I don't know that I did. And I like breathwork because bringing it back to boundaries, like it shows me where I'm at. It's a real clear indicator of what have I been holding on to? Where am I tense in my body? How much stress am I holding on to? That's the first half is really clearing it out. The second half is bringing things back in. Okay, what do I want to feel? How do I want to move through this world? What do I want to embody? And that just helps me set boundaries so strong. And there's something that he would say at the end of sessions that really stuck with me. And he, you're just coming out of this experience. Sometimes you're a little sensitive. And so he mentions, to have boundaries, to be gentle with yourself is sometimes to be stern with the outside world. And that really has stuck with me as well. And that I think it's a beautiful tool. I won't say it's like the end all be all, but it is a beautiful tool to really show you where you're at and where you need to make some changes in your life so that you can support where you're at. Awesome. Maybe that changes.
Yeah, we'll put the details in the show notes for some of those practices and YouTube videos and things like that. Last thing that I would like to talk to you about before we wrap things up for today is your tarot card, your tarot card reading. How did you get into that practice? What called you to it? Before you answer that question, I'll just give a 2-second personal experience with it. I pulled cards with you a couple of months ago, and I had never experienced you working your magic and doing your thing. And I know that you had mentioned it before, but I didn't really know what that meant. And I had never had anyone read cards to me before. I'd had psychic sessions and things like that. It was such a beautiful, unique experience, and it landed so hard for me. And the way that you helped me navigate my way through my cards and read them to me, and you literally catapulted something huge inside of me from that experience. So thank you, first of all, for that. And then also, how did you get into it? How did tarot card reading become a thing for you?
Yeah, well, one, thank you for sharing that. And also a reflection that I just held the space. Like, we're always doing it on our own. I can hold the space and create the opening, but you called that in, and that was
I had like 5 sword cards. Okay, I needed some help navigating what that meant.
Yeah, definitely. But the energy that moved through after, and the way you took that and ran with it was beautiful to witness.
Thank you.
So I've always felt, I don't really resonate with psychic. I don't know that I resonate with oracle. I feel like we all can tap in. I've just felt really tapped in. I'll say that since I was little. Seen dead people, the whole thing. And I know it runs in my family on both sides, which is really interesting. So my mom is very tapped in, and she's a big oracle card reader. My dad is from Nicaragua, and a lot of our family down there is all into, some magic, some hoodoo. It's a little different down there, but still I've had, a lot of mediumship on my father's side as well. So both parents have always been really open to seeing what that expression can look like for me. And with my mom specifically, she always was just kind of pushing, like, you're really gifted, you should duck into it. I remember for my 2nd grade birthday, I got my toes read, or she'd take me to like a psychic's house, and was just really trying to like initiate. And I was so resistant. I don't know that I was resistant to being tapped in, or I was just resistant to my mother, had a mother wound growing up, and I was just like, I want to do whatever I want to do. It's kind of stayed with me now. I have such boundaries now that I reflect, but I've just never really loved to be told what to do. But I felt that she just really wanted that for me. And I remember being with a partner that was really into science and was like, that stuff doesn't make sense scientifically. Let's watch a show and I'll tell you why it doesn't make sense, why this can't be. But that was such a hard part for me because you're like, that's my truth. I'm seeing what I'm seeing. I'm knowing what I'm knowing. I'm getting validation from others. How can you like overlook that? So I used to call myself a skeptic psychic. I just was like, this doesn't make sense. Now it makes all the sense to me. But I just had such resistance. And then all of a sudden, I think my friend Chelsea, same friend, sent me a tarot reading from like a general tarot reading off YouTube. And I was like, okay, I watch it and it's to a T exactly what I'm going through. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my own deck. And I got my own deck. Each one comes with a book. There's 78 cards in the deck of tarot. I was like looking through the book, looking at every card, watching YouTube videos where they went card by card by card. I was like, I have to know what these mean. I just felt so called. And then I couldn't read for myself, which was interesting. Usually people can read for themselves, but they struggle to read for others. But I had a block on myself. So I just started reading for friends. And then I got really, really tapped in. It was just like a great divination tool to get me to a place to where I could really just tap in. That's what it is. It's a tool. And then I started, professionally reading. I've been professionally reading now for like 2 years. Yeah. So that's how I got into
Beautiful.
it. Yeah.
You're not taking any readings till the new year?
To the new year.
You're pretty booked.
Yeah.
Hot commodity.
Exactly.
She does it for me when I beg her. Agency clients as well. You're pretty slammed over there until the new year.
Yeah.
Okay. But we can put your details in show notes.
Yeah.
How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram's a great way. So Jordan J. Perry. I'm really good on Instagram. I would say to start there. Website's going through a refresh. Backend's going through a refresh. This end of the year I'm really just feeling called to. I feel like I've got a different energy. I want to bring a different energy. So a little space. Space is good.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are you most looking forward to for the next chapter of your life?
To see how I can bring what I've learned to other women. I mean, I'm open to sharing with men as well, but I feel as my journey as a woman and reclaiming that, like what woman means to me and then showing up as her has been such a beautiful process that I would just love to share in a way that either inspires women or supports women if they're wanting to take a similar journey. I think my intention now is like, okay, I'm here. How can I help others get to the same level in whatever way that looks like for them. Yeah.
Do you know what that looks like yet?
No, but I know that it'll come to me. I think it's like it's formulating. I feel it around me, and I'm like, okay. I'm starting to ask different questions, which tells me like, okay, we're moving, we're getting somewhere. I'm really curious, but I want to leave it so open. It's like the balance between watching what others do and then, okay, what's my truth?
I
The
love
boundaries
this.
on that. Yeah.
I don't think you know any business coaches that could help you with that. Or of any business people in your life that could just guide you in the right direction.
I think I'm the best one right now.
Thank you so much for being here today. We could talk all day. We do. This is a snippet, guys, of like our everyday conversations. And I've shared on this show many times that I've called in strong boss women. This is what I'm talking about right here. I appreciate you. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Any last words of advice or wisdom you'd like to leave our audience with?
One, happy birthday.
Thank you.
So happy to be here.
Thank you.
Blessed to be part of this embodiment of you reclaiming space. You're taking up so much space, and I'm loving
Thank
it.
you.
And I love to share this space with you. To listeners, just, start small and just get curious. If you want to know yourself, like treat that seriously. If you really want to get to know yourself, then get to know yourself. Put yourself in positions where it's uncomfortable, but you will get to the other side. So just like we said, the body awareness, the body, the awareness, the courage to speak up, and then the self-love to detach from the outcome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Her details are in the show notes. And we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye.